turning statements into questions with SVO pattern. Hello, language enthusiasts. Welcome to our new lesson on English grammar fundamentals. Today, we'll explore an interesting topic: how to form questions using the subject-verb-object, SVO, pattern. You might already be familiar with SVO pattern in simple English sentences. Now, let's see how we can apply the same structure in crafting questions. Before we dive into questions, let's briefly revisit the SVO pattern. In English, many simple sentences follow this pattern, where S stands for subject, V for verb, and O for object. An example is, she, S, reads, V, books, O. The subject is the doer of the action, the verb is the action itself, and the object is what receives the action. With this SVO structure, how do we create a question? For yes, no questions, the general rule is to invert the subject and the verb. So, she reads books would turn into, does she read books? You'll notice that we use the base form of the verb, read, after the auxiliary, does, and the subject-verb order gets inverted to verb-subject. Now let's discuss WH questions. These are questions starting with words like who, what, when, where, why, and how. In these cases, the WH word usually comes first, followed by the auxiliary verb, subject, and then the main verb. For example, from our original sentence, we could ask, what does she read? The SVO pattern remains, but we place the WH word at the beginning and again invert the subject and verb. But remember, there are always exceptions in English. For instance, with sentences involving the verb, to be, or modal verbs like can, should, must, we simply invert the subject and verb for questions. For example, she is happy turns into, is she happy? No auxiliary verb is needed in this case. And that wraps up our lesson on forming questions using the SVO pattern. It might seem tricky at first, but with practice, you'll get the hang of it. Keep practicing and soon enough, forming questions in English will become second nature to you. Remember, understanding and applying the SVO pattern is a powerful tool in mastering English sentence structure. Stay tuned for more lessons on English language learning, and keep your passion for learning burning bright.